a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1080, where today we have an interview special for you. On the podcast, we often talk about the work that people won't have to do thanks to technologies like automation and AI and everything that comes with it. However, there are plenty of jobs out there that people shouldn't be doing in the first place. To find out what they are, Niall Kitson had a chat with AnyBotics Senior Product Manager and Swiss Chapter Co-Lead of Women in Robotics, Kateryna Portmann, along with the Technical Project Manager of Verity Nazrin Aliyeva, to talk about their experiences.
Kateryna, to start with yourself, I think it's fair to say most people don't wake up in the morning in their youth and think, I really want a career in robotics. Tell us your journey to how you got into this area.
Hi, yes, absolutely. So I started my career back in 2007. So during that time, robotics was not really a big topic. It was more about consulting or legal firms. This is exactly where I started. So I started in consulting and strategy, slowly moving into a tech. I was a founder myself of a tech startup that was more in a digital space. And slowly, I ended up in hardware through a journey being employed by different startups and scale-ups in Asia and UK. My first hardware startup was in Switzerland. About 6 years ago, I joined a robotic company that helped my sister to have better quality of life. She has a cerebral palsy, and neurorehabilitation robotics was something that changed her life completely. So it was exoskeletons and treadmill machines and body weight support that is also robots, because in our case, we think that robots is a humanoid or quadruped or drone, but there are many other ways to create robotic solutions, and one of them was in the hospitals. I was working on the software platform that do outcome-based information collected from all the clinics and hospitals. And in that company, I spent 6 years. I learned how hardware and software works together. And then I decided to change to autonomous inspection with robots that are going in mining, oil and gas, and other critical infrastructure plants, building something new in hardware. So that was clearly a new challenge for me. But having experience in so many different countries, talking to so many different people, I can bring those experiences to my younger colleagues that hopefully really appreciate the diversity and broadness of the things that usually I'm bringing to the table.
Nazrin, your experience then, tell us a little bit about your background.
So my bachelor was in automation and control. This is how I actually got into this field of robotics. I started with normal automation, where I had to automate the process and make it like humanless or less human, where there's less human intervention. Where I started in oil and gas, and then slowly moved to manufacturing, where I was introduced to the robotics, because robotics is part of the automation, where the automation has different segments, different tools inside. Let's say there are machines, they are like an overall software system which controls everything, and also there are robots. They could be stationary robots like robotics arms, and they could be moving robots like robots on the wheels, for example. And this is how I was introduced to robotics, where I decided to deep dive into one segment only robotics, keeping behind all other segments. And after this automation role or engineering role, which I had last in Switzerland already, I joined the big another corporation, which is called ABB, where the role was just to fully replace the labor with the robots. Maybe it sounds a bit like cruel, but it actually had a very nice outcome, and now factory is quite successful. Then I joined another startup where the startup was doing was focused on autonomous robots on the wheels. And then I switched to current company where the robots are not on the wheels anymore. They are flying, which are like drones. So this is how I started.
So you've both got kind of very different interactions when it comes to customers. Kateryna, you're kind of at the almost the front-facing end of things. You're involved in product and project management, product specification. How do you find people are absorbing the message of the potential of robots at a time when AI seems to have sucked up an awful lot of oxygen in the tech conversation? Where do robots fit in? Are people thinking of getting a robotic solution sort of straight out the gate? Or is it a case of you're talking to companies and you're saying, do you know what? Yeah, a robot actually will do this job better than an AI off in a server, or maybe upskilling your workforce. How are those conversations happening?
Yeah, I believe it's not a surprise, right? For me as a product manager, whenever I go to the customer, they never look for a robot. They look for a solution for their problem. And that could be different interfaces. In some cases, it can be done by software, AI, but also there are cases where it needs to be an inspection or manipulation. And then it needs to be a physical robot with the brain that is like covered with AI functionalities, for example, because we're talking now about autonomous robots. So it's never my thing to tell what robot will do. I'm mostly in product management asking why you would like to have that or this problem prioritized, and solution space is a little bit further. When I'm talking with engineers in the very early beginning, I really need to understand what needs to be solved. Sometimes it's not even clear for the people that I'm talking to, so I'm just shadowing and observing what they're doing and thinking what can be the problem that we can solve, because not everything you can delegate to a robot. But there are some things that are repetitive, for example, or dangerous that might be delegated to robot powered by AI. And on those things, I'm focusing and I'm understanding better how much they spend for that now, what would be the next steps in order to change the workflow that they have, and how to calculate return on investment on something they never did. All projects and products that I'm involved are usually happening 5 years after I'm starting. So I'm always in the very, very forefront of the understanding the problem and then testing it out, doing proof of concept, minimal viable products, pilots, and only then commercializing it.
Nazrin, when we were talking earlier, you referred to yourself as the last face in the chain when it comes to robotics. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
So my current role is I am in a deployment team where basically the robot is already ready and now being deployed at a customer site, where we are installing the system and also then testing at the customer site and introducing the system to the customer. It's like during the final acceptance, together with trainings and getting feedbacks. There actually we see in live how the customer is reacting to the robot we are like selling or the solution we are introducing, and we are also the front line to get the first-hand feedbacks and really understanding how the system is working in real warehouses or factories, what we usually miss when we are sitting in our offices and developing the product. So this is actually the exciting part of the work, where you can really see if the job you did or the product you created, the system you are developing is really satisfying the customer needs. Because like I can say, the customers don't really buy robots. Their main goal is not to buy robots. No one is interested in robots. Customer is interested in the solution to their pain. And robot is just a tool or assistant to deliver the solution. It can be robot, it can be something else which could do this job. So at the end of the day, it can be also human doing this. So at the end of the day, the customer is not really interested in robot. It's interested how their pain, which is absolutely not, maybe it's not even hardware or software related, could be solved. So when we are also introducing this solution to them, we have to make sure that their problem is really solved. Not just they have fancy flying things or driving things in their warehouse, which looks cool, like from sci-fi, but it's actually giving the rate of return on investment in the long run.
So, Kateryna, in dealing with customers, how are you finding, particular sectors as being willing to experiment with robots? We mentioned factory settings earlier. Are there any particular industries that have proven to be particularly open to working with robots?
Like, I'm not going into all industries to find the one that is the most open. My solution is just a part of our offering. So it's mostly the company strategy and other people deciding about the industries. What I can see that some industries are more likely to deploy the robots because, for example, it's dangerous for people to work there. So they would like to bring people out of hazard zones, and also sometimes regulations in the countries are telling that it should be by certain point of time more robotized or automated. And in that regards, we do have a competitive advantage in Switzerland where we're thinking about compliance and we're building the most robust solutions. I'm often getting the requests and questions, how are you building hardware so much cheaper in China? But those companies are actually not so price sensitive. They would like the solution that really works, where you thought through every process and where they can trust their assets, mostly critical assets, to be inspected or manipulated. So those industries are oil and gas, chemicals. They would need a solution like that really, really quickly. And others in industries where we are working, it's also quite important because I'm visiting the customer sites quite often, and I can see the environments that they're working in are not great for humans. It's either too hot, you have their chemicals flying around, acids, there is no sunlight. Like, to bring people out of it is part of our goal and mission, and this how I can relate to that one. As well, humans are doing mistakes, and we know about it, right? It's not a secret that incidents are happening. I was born in 1986 when Chernobyl happened, and it took the lives of so many people. I would love that never happen again, and maybe robots is a solution.
Nazrin, when you're looking at solutions for specific industries, have you found similar experience that some industries are just more willing to experiment with robots over others? I think Kateryna's point there about looking at oil and gas is particularly interesting, but I suppose your area of expertise is drones. So at the moment, the conversation seems to be centering around deliveries for medicine or food. Do you find any other interesting applications out there?
Generally, there are the applications where human want to reach without sending the human there. So basically, something on the height, something in the dangerous places. Something on something which is like repeating task. So on the heights could be like drones doing inspections, flying outdoors. Like where I'm working, the drones are working indoors. They are not flying. They are only flying inside of the warehouse. They don't go out of the facility. So there, for example, they are flying on the level of the 4 or 5 meters above the floor, which is also dangerous for a person to be on that height and work on those heights. So basically, there, or for example, there are like robots also like now being on Mars or maybe even on the moon. So basically everywhere where the people, we don't want to send people or people couldn't be sent. because of it's dangerous, or it's because of the like other commercial even reasons. So those are like main segments, and then we can like of course make the digitalization. What could be? It could be a warehouse, with factories. It could be aerospace or anything. Like it could be anything which could be within that category.
Kateryna, you mentioned there earlier in passing about regulation, and in particular, in the context of where you get your components from, whether it be from within Europe, where certain standards are in place, or from, say, China, where they may not necessarily be. So where do you find the locus of regulation to be? Should the industry be trusted to look after itself, or do you think there should be greater input from the EU when it comes to looking at standards?
So technology is developing faster than regulation. That's just the way it is. And robots are deployed. Regulation is not one-to-one match. They're using machinery directive, they're using cybersecurity act, there are some ISO standards, there are data acts, GDPR that apply depending on the application of the robot. I do believe that countries should, together with regulators, work with industry because they know application and risks and potential of robot very closely. That's why we are part of Sandbox AI with Canton of Zurich, where we're discovering together EIAU Act implication that are coming later and many other possible regulations that can be harmonized around the world, because also it's not that our company is working only in one market. We are targeting US as well, where it's currently different kind of regulation, and Asia Pacific, and talking from women in robotics perspective, where I'm like an overarching many other startups and bigger companies, I see that everybody face that problem. So I believe that bigger companies should be in front of innovation, showing transparently potential risk registers and doing enough testing, not only in simulation, but also in real life scenarios. And in that regards, it should be somehow in collaboration, because innovation and compliance should support each other and not be an obstacle. From one side, we would like to create something, and from another side, we would like it to be safe for humans, because robots are not anymore only in structured environments where they are not collaborating with the humans. It's cobots that we're talking about. It's those robots that are working with humans in the same spaces. So it's very important for them to be safe and reliable.
Nazrin, from the perspective of somebody that's actually, putting things together, have you come across much variation in the quality of material that's out there? For example, are parts and materials from the US as acceptable as parts and materials developed in the EU? And similarly, to go further east, again, I'm going to use the example of China, as it has such a large manufacturing base. Given the choice, who would you like to work with? Which market do you consider more reliable from a standards and regulation perspective?
Well, there is no one answer to this question. Usually when you build a robot, you combine the materials from all over the world. It could be raw material coming from the China or other countries. It could be electronic parts coming from the US. It could be some parts manufactured in the EU. So it's really hard to say. Of course, now it's a strict filter not to bring any electronics or like it's an intelligence from China in other reasons. But material-wise, like a raw material, how to shape the, like, for example, case of the drone or the robot, there's no such a big no-go, because as long as it fits the European standards, it's fine regardless from where it comes from. So as long as it passes the quality check. So it's hard really to say, because when you build a robot, you test different kind of material from different places, and once it fails the test, you try to replace with something else. So we also went through many iterations trying to work with many subcontractors, where we tried out some materials which were melted during the because the drone, for example, was heating. So we had to replace it with. So it was one European brand which was replaced by another European brand. So it's even hard to say. You have to just try and see how it works at the end. But there's no country that you can say this is exactly where we get it from and it will be really working for sure, because at the end of the day, you never know until you try.
Kateryna, finally, what one development out there in robotics do you find most exciting at the moment?
It's difficult because I have access to a lot of different information sources and projects worldwide. Of course, the most I'm familiar with our development of critical infrastructure autonomous robots that could help people and really change their understanding for who these jobs in critical infrastructure are, because it's quite difficult to get people to those jobs, but younger people really love working with robots. So it's attracting them because in the nearby future, I don't see that it will be 100% automated and robotized. The most probably that will not happen during my lifetime, maybe our kids. So that's super fascinating, but also interesting to see that robotics is coming to many other industries. Recently, I have seen an example where robots are going to the agricultural field and trying to measure the grapes or the berries for people not to go out there too early to collect them, or to see if there are any insects are damaging them, and to make it bio instead of killing just all the insects or whatever. So that's also very cool, because I'm coming from Ukraine and we have a lot of agriculture there. And I believe that would change the industry completely. And of course, the entertainment robots are very cool. Recently, we had an event in Switzerland Innovation Park Zurich, and there are a few talent shows from different companies, robotic companies, and some of the robots were for entertainment. And that's also pretty cool because it's closer to people. With industrial use, it's very, very limited who has access and information and can see those robots. But for the entertainment, it's just for everyone, for kids, for adults, doesn't matter the gender, doesn't matter the country, everybody are just having fun and enjoying watching those robots.
Nazrin, your turn. Is there any particular development that you find really exciting right now?
To be honest, I'm just happy to see robots entering all segments of our life. And they are like segments it were before unthinkable of. It's not just like a cleaning or I don't know, fixing things or inspection, but also assisting, like in the hospitals and so on. So I see the robots coming everywhere. I don't even see where the robot will not be playing some role. But where exactly I think could be more helpful, of course, but I think just it's my personal opinion, like helping with household courses, for example, at home, like with cleaning and folding the shirts or laundry or like doing the dishes for us. So for sure, this is where I would be more. I saw a few robotic companies, they are trying to do like bathroom cleaning robots. They are like still in pilot stage, but I would be really excited to see them in our kitchens doing stuff for us, which we hate to do. So this is, I would say, this is the exciting part.
And that was Kateryna Portmann and Nazrin Aliyeva chatting with Niall Kitson.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out the latest tech stories, which we have online for you, as always, all year round at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and on RT Radio 1 Extra, as always. In the meantime, do remember to share our podcast with a friend. Just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify or YouTube, and we'll give them the point of view from our grand little green island here on the edge of the Atlantic. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thank you so much for listening. Have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.